Hey everyone, today we're ranking the survivors of Dead by Daylight from least to most scared of the entity's realm, and their general situation. For this we have 5 tiers: extremely scared, quite scared, unfazed or neutral, confident, and then possibly happy to be there. Obviously this is quite subjective, and I'm mainly going to be going off of how the characters act in their lore, as well as how they visually appear in game, such as how confident or scared they look. Let's get into it. Okay, so starting off with extremely scared. Dwight and Claudette are the 2 characters who I think are extremely scared of the realm and their situation. This is mainly down to them being the only 2 characters to just look outright terrified, almost always, in their natural standing poses in the lobby. Both were fairly anxious and unsure people before they got taken, and I highly doubt the realm is helping out their nerves. Claudette maybe finds some comfort in her botany, and Dwight in being the unlikely leader. But yeah, quite simply, they look the most scared. Although maybe it's just a case of many other people being just as scared and not showing it as clearly. However, I think to be so visibly scared all of the time means they're pretty scared. Let me know what you think about these 2. Moving on to quite scared. Quentin looks pretty worse for wear, and that's presumably because he's just finished stopping Freddy, and then he gets taken into the entity's realm to flee from even more nightmarish killers, and the poor guy still hasn't had a nap. I bet he's pretty scared. I would be tempted to put him into that lowest tier if it weren't for the fact that he has faced down Freddy, and the realm isn't his first supernatural experience, and so he's not going to be as shocked. But still, he's a teenager, and he's tired, and likely terrified, his tiredness only amplifying this. Nancy, Steve, and Jonathan are licensed characters who I believe are also going to be quite distressed by their situation. All 3 of them, although not displaying outright fear, do seem concerned for sure. They've all faced up against the supernatural, but they've also done it surrounded by the familiarity of their hometown and their friends. In the entity's realm, they don't have the same degree of support, and the threat is entirely different. All 3 characters also have somewhat nervous or anxious body language. At the end of the day, for a lot of these licensed characters, they're all in their teens still. That's pretty young to experience a lot of this horrendous stuff, so yeah, I think they would be scared, at least a bit, even after their Stranger Things experiences. Again, for many of these licensed characters, the realm may seem worse to them as they've already been through enough in their own stories. Jeff, although with his seemingly uncaring and slouched posture, I believe is quite scared. If we look at Jeff as a person, he's pretty out of his depth, arguably more so than the other characters. Jeff has been living a very reserved and peaceful life as an artist, caring for his dog and doing his own thing, only to be yanked into a spooky spider realm and forced to run from killers. So I think despite Jeff's tough look, he's likely quite reasonably scared. Jeff is a little higher than Dwight and Claudette though, as I think due to his past traumatic experiences, he'll be able to handle this a little bit easier. He has a bit more wisdom with age, I think. Felix is probably a strange one to put here, as he seems quite relaxed almost. However, prior to getting taken, he had a child on the way, who now he likely won't ever see. Felix's parents were also taken by, or possibly killed by, the entity, so this probably is only amplifying his emotions in terms of his situation. He tried to avoid the thought of them getting taken his whole life. Now he has been taken too, and his own child may have to go through the same experience. I think his seeming calmness is simply his professional attitude and face that he's putting on. After all, I think as he knows a bit about the entity, he's somewhere between happy he knows something, but almost wishing he was ignorant to it in the first place. His child and abandoning them, I think, is his main concern though. Jane, I believe, is doing a similar thing to Felix and putting on a brave face. I think on close inspection of her facial expressions though, can reveal that she is definitely quite uncomfortable in the realm. Again, understandably. Before getting taken, she was quite stressed out, driving to see her father, and ended up crashing in her car as she was taken. Her years in showbiz and speaking to celebrities on talk shows hasn't exactly prepared her for this. And I think after her life's work being torn away from her, everything she has worked so hard to build is going to be a pretty big blow, especially topped by the fact that she now has to survive killers also. Meg, I don't believe, is scared as much as she is concerned, particularly for the well-being of her mother, who was ill before she was taken. She was her sole carer and is likely quite concerned about her health. I imagine also being in the realm does scare her somewhat, having no supernatural encounters encounters prior. Before she got taken, she was just running through the woods, and then suddenly she found herself here. I mean, that's pretty rough. I think her fear is definitely going to be leaning more toward her mother though, over fear for herself. Cheryl, despite her days of fighting off the monsters of Silent Hill, seems pretty scared about her current situation. Fair enough, to be honest. I imagine after suffering the horrors of Silent Hill, it's a bit of a shock to suddenly be dragged into a big spider's realm to play its twisted emotion games. I think despite her past experiences with the supernatural, Cheryl is kind of sick of it, and reasonably quite scared to be facing another new supernatural threat. Her lore is also set a bit after Silent Hill 3, when she's moved on from the events of Silent Hill, only to get taken by the entity, probably making this even more distressing. She's a powerful character for sure, who can call upon the entity to block generators, but I think despite this, she is still undeniably one of the more scared looking survivors. And I think it's due to all those bad Silent Hill memories being dug up. Lisa I want to put here for the same reason. She's already been through a ton within the first Silent Hill and being essentially controlled by a cult. Sure, she's smiling, but I get the feeling that she's putting on a brave face to the extreme. After all she's been through, getting taken to the realm must truly feel like a nightmare. I'm not going to say extremely scared though, as again, she's at least had experience with the supernatural and different monsters. Okay, on to the unfazed or neutral characters. Adam, I believe, would be a character that would be more scared if it weren't for the fact that he looks so unfazed. My little theory on Adam is that he potentially believes he's dead. In the lore, just before he was taken, he was in a pretty bad sounding train crash, and hit by a door that had detached from that train. For a logical man like Adam, I feel he would be quite scared by the sudden irrationality of his situation, but he isn't. So my little theory is that he thinks he's dead, and he died in that train crash, and so is somewhat calmed by that fact. The alternative is that he's just simply seeing the situation for what it is, and saying, hey, well, I gotta deal with it. Tap is next up and appears to be quite distressed by the way he stood, and how he's moving his hands. When you think about it, Tap has just been shot before getting taken. Just before he's taken, he's contemplating the mistakes he's made, and his obsession with Jigsaw. However, this is quite a contrast to how his mindset is described in his lore upon coming into the realm. It reads, his mind was clear for the first time in months. Victims needed to be avenged. Killers thwarted. He didn't know what this place was, but he was still a cop, and he always would be. He had a job to do. So I think his death would still be distressing, as seen by his nervous body language. However, his motivation to protect others seems to have overridden this to an extent, and so I think he's quite neutral to his situation. Nia and Jake both have the most neutral faces ever, to be honest. Nia is probably kinda happy that she's evaded all the crimes she's committed, after tagging and potentially burning down Crotus Pren, as well as basically killing a guy. She wasn't in the best of spots. Jake, I imagine, was kinda just like, oh hey, back out in the woods surviving, I guess. Only, you know, there's more of a threat this time. They both look very unconcerned with their situations though. Out of the early and original characters, they are probably the most fitted to survival in the realm, to be honest. Zarina, I imagine, does definitely have a degree of fear for her situation, but isn't entirely stressing out due to the amount of bad stuff she's already seen. As someone who hasn't experienced anything supernatural, I believe she will find it distressing, as any person would. But I think the survival aspect is something she's largely been doing for a lot of her life, avoiding very real dangers in the real world when coming close to dangerous gangs and such. Again, I don't think she's fearless, but the steady look on her face definitely indicates that she isn't outright scared either. Leon and Claire both appear to me to just be a bit unfazed by it all. They just got yanked out of a zombie and bioweapon infested Raccoon City and right into a killer infested realm. So I think they're kinda just like, huh, this is just as bad. I think they would definitely be scared and concerned for what became of Raccoon City, but generally it's just one bad thing shifting to another. I would put them into the more confident tiers, but Leon is still his Resident Evil 2 rookie self in DBD, and Claire is also just her younger RE2 self also, so they're not quite unstoppable and fearless just yet. For now though, I imagine their situations are quite neutral between the realm and RE2. Claire is probably somewhat happy, as she did manage to find her brother, so there's that, I guess. Laurie is like Leon and Claire to an extent. She seems quite unfazed by the realm and not very scared. She looks calm and quite confident. This is probably because she's just survived that Halloween night against Myers, and is probably just feeling lucky to have survived, but is equally now more ready for another attack of some kind after that experience. She's had her experience with the supernatural, and as it stands in both the look on her face and the way she's described in the lore, she's pretty neutral to her situation and ready to take on the realm. Ash Ash is likely one you didn't expect to be in here, and if he was his younger self from the films, he'd probably be someone nearer to the top. But Ash in DBD is his older self, who has a family and a child. He's just been taken away from them, into the entity's realm, and may never see them again. I don't think he's scared of the killers or potentially the realm itself, but I think he's definitely scared that he won't get back to his family. So I think he's actually somewhere in between being scared and confident, and in a more neutral state over his typical cocky or overconfident state. Okay, onto the confident characters. Yui I am placing low in this confidence tier, as I think she does definitely display confidence, especially when facing down the Oni in the Cursed Legacy cutscene, and also just her general expression looking rather unfazed and calm. Yui's gone through some hardship in her life, and she's also gone through lots of scrapes through her years of riding her motorbike, so I think it's likely toughened her. I mean, she was in a race and then suddenly encountered the Oni, and she stands up to him like, "Oh hey, that's nice, your eyes are glowing red," before dodging a katana swing. One thing that I think will lower her a bit though is that she is leaving behind her group, the Sakura 7, who she both supported and who supported her, which I imagine is going to be a blow to her confidence. Kate has fought off the entity before directly, after its claws attacked her before she was taken and she managed to escape them. This possibly has led to a somewhat chilled out appearance in the realm. I think it's partly for show too, as she wants to give others confidence by looking confident herself. She seems like that kind of person. However, just for the sheer lack of fear she is displaying, I don't think she's actually that scared. She becomes concerned in her tome lore when her music takes a dark turn, but she really does not look phased. Yunjin, I think, is feeling pretty confident because she's likely just happy that 1. She's not dead. Right before she got taken, Jiwoon or the Trickster was about to kill her. Then 2, she's not really going to be held accountable for all the uncovered crimes and murders of the Trickster that she stayed silent on to save her career. Yeah, she kind of dodged all that in quite a lucky way. The entity's realm isn't a nice place, but she essentially gets away with all the dodgy stuff she did without consequence, although maybe it could be argued that the realm is the consequence. No? Okay. At the end of her lore, it even mentions that upon entering the realm, she welcomed the darkness within, hinting that she's maybe kinda down with being there. Mikaela doesn't actually seem that fazed by her situation, and actually slightly smiling, which is kinda weird as she's had horrible nightmares about being in the realm. You'd think this would make her scared of the realm, but she does not seem it at all, just whipping out a book and giving it a quick read. I believe the reason for this is likely that she's maybe more confident in her magic, now that she can actually apply blessings to boons. Maybe she's just pretty happy about being able to do some solid magic. She also has fought back the entity's claws before when they attacked her in her room, so maybe she doesn't fear it as much as others. Again, a bit like Kate. Yeah, she seems quite confident. Potentially her clairvoyancy has prepared her for this moment, and so now that she's here, she's not so shocked, because she kind of saw it coming. David seems quite relaxed, to be honest, and I think it's probably because he has a lot of faith in his own strength or physicality. He's been punching stuff bigger than him all his life, and now he's seemingly just kinda ready to do it again. All his perks center around getting hit or taking hits, or literally injuring yourself for the whole trial. He's the only survivor who can outright just shrug off a hit completely with dead hard. I think his recklessness and his seeming altruism for others means he's basically confident in his own strength and kinda fine with being in the realm. Chris I want to put in a similar vein to David, as he's kind of got that same confident posture and generally doesn't look to be all too scared or caring of his dangerous situation. Chris also has punched boulders before. I get the feeling he's not all too bothered about the realm and whether or not it's going to try and hurt him. He's sleeves up and ready to go. Sybil is kind of in a similar spot too. She looks very confident and not at all phased, and it doesn't seem like she's putting it on. She just seems genuinely fine and ready to face down the killers. She's seen the horrors of Silent Hill and is trained as a police officer, and so is pretty prepared for the realm after her Silent Hill experiences. Bill is a simple one, I feel. I reckon Bill is absolutely sick of this. All this fighting, saving others, dying, but regardless he is confident and ready to face up to whatever he has to. I don't think he's happy about it, but I also don't think he's scared or concerned. He's probably annoyed, but not scared. Confident, but annoyed. Jill is kind of the same. She looks really annoyed. She does not look happy about this. A lot like Bill, she's already dealt with a bunch of supernatural stuff trying to kill her, or bioweapony stuff, and she's probably a bit sick of it. At the same time, now she's here, she's not just giving up either. Bill and Jill both have that shared stubbornness to dying, more so than maybe any other character in the realm. Okay, finally, the characters who are possibly happy to be in the realm. Feng is one of few characters who is actually smiling. It seems she views the entities realm as a new challenge after her esports career went downhill in the real world. Feng's lore ends with the line, "She realized this was what she had been training for her entire life. Now she was going to win." Basically, she's treating the entities realm like a game and is set on winning it as a competitive esports player, and she seems pretty confident she can do that too. It's not the best place to be, but she appears actually content and kind of happy to finally have the challenge she was looking for. Elodie is potentially happy to be there, as this is essentially what she was searching for. She wanted to get to the entity and her parents, and what better way than literally getting taken by it. Prior to getting taken, she had also been stabbed by some cult guy, and so was likely going to die if she hadn't have been taken. So survival, and also she gets to reach the place she always wanted to reach. Now she has her chance to escape and also find her parents. It's probably still somewhat scary regardless, but I think she's pretty happy she's finally reached where she wants to be. Ace seems pretty happy to just be chilling out in the entities realm, having a wide grin plastered across his face 24/7, with a laid back posture and generally chilled out tone. Ace just seems to be pretty content that he's never gonna have to pay back all those debt collectors from his years of swindling and gambling. I mean, maybe he's putting on a face, but it doesn't seem like it. Ace even displays his capability to take a punch or two as he remains in a ring with a professional fighter for 5 minutes in his tome lore as a bet, getting hit loads. I think he's quite prepped for his situation, and he escaped a lot of bad people who would have likely killed him otherwise. I doubt he likes it in the realm, but the guy is outright grinning most of the time. And from his years as a dodgy gambler and swindler, he's weirdly prepared. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own thoughts on this down below. Thanks, and goodbye.